Hello, friends. Today you'll witness a raw confession that exposes the rot in a seemingly perfect family. This is Alyssa's story, a woman burdened by years of silence and guilt. Behind her polite nods and locked doors lies a betrayal that splintered everything. Watch closely. The studio light bathes Alyssa in a stark, unforgiving glow, her face framed by the unblinking eye of the camera. She sits alone in the high-backed chair, hands clasped tightly in her lap, fingers twisting like roots seeking escape from soil. The recording mic hovers inches from her lips, a metallic sentinel capturing every breath, every hesitation, a tool that could amplify her voice or shatter the fragile world she's guarded for years. "I've carried this silence for so long," she begins, her voice a fragile thread, laced with the tremor of anxiety that knots her chest. "Our family. It's like a house with all the doors locked from the inside. We move around each other, polite nods in the hallway, but no one opens a damn thing. And me? I'm the one holding the keys, or at least I thought I was." Her eyes dart to the side, then back to the lens, as if confronting a ghost in the glass. The guilt surges, hot and familiar. Not hers alone, but a burden she's shouldered since that night. The scandal, Marcus's fall, the way she froze instead of fighting for him. She feels it now, pressing against her ribs, the weight of unspoken accusations. "You let it happen. You hid to protect us all." The mic picks up the catch in her throat, amplifying the raw edge. She leans forward, forcing the words out, her pulse thundering in her ears. "I admit it. I bear this guilt like it's mine to own. The betrayal that splintered us, the way I watched it unfold and said nothing, thinking silence would stitch us back together. But it's poison, isn't it? Eating away at the illusion of order we've all pretended to live in." Anxiety coils tighter, visions flashing. Marcus's cold stare across the dinner table, Elena's averted gaze, the family album gathering dust on the shelf. Its pages a minefield of faded smiles, hiding fractures. What if this confession rips them further apart? What if her truth, laid bare under these lights, turns avoidance into irreparable exile? Yet as the words spill, something shifts, a spark igniting in the pit of her fear. Her shoulders square, breath steadying, resolve hardening like steel in the forge. "I'm done hiding. This mic, this camera. They're forcing my hand, but maybe that's what we need. To face it, not as ghosts, but as us." She pauses, the question hanging unspoken in the air between her and the void. How do I start this conversation without tearing us all apart? The light catches a glint of determination in her eyes, the first crack in the silence, promising revelation even as it threatens ruin. As the documentary progresses, the scene shifts to the exterior of the Hart family home, where tension builds in the gathering dusk. The camera crew huddles in the dimming light outside the Hart family home, lenses trained on the facade like silent sentinels. It's a modest two-story colonial, paint peeling at the edges, windows glowing faintly against the encroaching dusk. Through the sheer curtains of the living room, the space inside looks hollowed out. Empty armchairs facing each other like forgotten combatants. A coffee table cluttered with untouched mugs, steam long gone. No movement. No sound leaking through the walls. Alyssa Hart paces just beyond the frame, her reflection flickering in the glass. She's invited them here. Marcus, her brother, with his perpetual scowl. Elena, their mother, clutching that faded family album like a shield. But the door between them stays shut. It's an old oak thing, scarred from years of slams and neglect, now barring the way to the room where the cameras wait. Where Dr. Naomi Ellis sits poised with her notepad, ready to coax out the rot. Alyssa glances at it every few seconds, her hand hovering near the knob, then pulling back. The weight of it presses on her chest, a physical ache, as if the wood itself breathed the family's unspoken accusations. At first, it's just wariness, a tight knot in her gut, eyes darting to the crew outside, wondering if they're judging her already. She can feel their lenses probing, capturing the stillness that screams louder than words. Marcus is upstairs, she knows. She heard his footsteps earlier, heavy and retreating. Elena's in the kitchen, the clink of dishes a feeble barrier against the inevitable. Alyssa's pulse quickens, the pause stretching like taffy. Why won't they come down? The documentary was her idea, her desperate bid to crack this silence. But now it feels like a trap she's sprung on herself. Impatience creeps in, hot and insistent, replacing the caution with a restless itch. She stops pacing, fists clenching at her sides. The door looms larger in her mind, not just wood and hinges, but the sum of every dodged phone call, every holiday cut short. Secrets have locked them all behind it. Her guilt over that long-ago scandal, Marcus's betrayal dismissed without a fight, Elena's quiet complicity. Alyssa presses her palm flat against the panel, feeling the cool grain, tempted to pound. But who will risk turning the knob first? The crew shifts outside, a low murmur rippling through them, the red lights on their cameras unblinking. The air thickens with waiting, the wound of their estrangement laid bare in the empty frame. Back in the studio for a deeper dive into the past, the interview resumes. The studio lights hummed like a swarm of distant bees, casting stark shadows across Alyssa's face. She sat rigid in the interview chair, fingers twisting the hem of her blouse, the weight of unspoken years pressing against her ribs. Dr. Naomi Ellis leaned forward, her voice steady as a scalpel. Alyssa, we've talked around it long enough. The betrayal, the one that splintered your family. Tell the camera. What happened that night with Marcus? Alyssa's breath caught, a sharp intake that echoed in the microphone, dangling inches from her lips. The recording mic, sleek and unblinking, captured every tremor, every flicker of doubt in her eyes. Anxiety clawed at her throat, hot and familiar, urging her to deflect, to say it was ancient history, buried where it belonged. But the mic waited, impartial, demanding. No slipping away now. The crew beyond the lights shifted. Marcus in the green room, arms crossed, Elena pacing the hallway outside. They weren't here yet, but the air thickened with their ghosts. I was 16, Alyssa started, voice cracking like thin ice. Her pulse thrummed in her ears, anxiety blooming into a full storm, palms slick against the armrests. Dad's scandal hit the papers. Embezzlement, they called it. Lies about the business. Marcus, he was supposed to stand by us, but he bailed. Told me it was my fault for not warning him sooner like I knew. I didn't. But he walked out that door, left me holding the pieces while Mom pretended nothing broke. The words tumbled out, raw and unpolished, each one peeling back the scab. The mic amplified her confession, feeding it into the void where her family listened, unseen but acutely felt. Dr. Naomi nodded, eyes soft but insistent. And the silence after? How did it feel carrying that alone? Like drowning in slow motion, Alyssa whispered. The anxiety fracturing now, giving way to a rush of revelation, like exhaling after holding breath too long. Shame burned, but so did the truth, sharp and liberating. Old wounds reopened, blood seeping into the sterile studio air. She could almost hear Marcus's sharp intake through the monitor, Elena's muffled sob from the corridor. The tension coiled tighter, invisible threads pulling them closer even as it threatened to snap. Would voicing this finally bridge the chasm, or just widen it irreparably? The mic hung there, silent witness, as the question lingered, in the charged quiet. Intercut with the interview, a soft focus recollection draws the audience into the memory. The camera lingers on Alyssa's hands, trembling slightly as they trace the worn edges of the faded family album. Its pages, yellowed and curling at the corners, spill out like forgotten confessions. Photos from better days, frozen smiles masking the cracks. She sits alone in the dim light of the Hart family living room, the neutral tones of the documentary studio bleeding into this intimate space. Soft focus recollections blur the edges, painting 2016 in muted sepia, as if the past itself is ashamed to show its face clearly. In the memory, Marcus stands at the kitchen counter, his broad shoulders slumped under the weight of the scandal that just broke. The newspaper headline screams from the table. Local executive fired amid ethics probe. Whispers of embezzlement, favoritism, details that smeared his name across the town. Alyssa's younger self hovers in the doorway, 16 and wide-eyed, clutching a mug of tea she never drinks. She knows the secret at the heart of it. The family favor Marcus pulled for her sake. A quiet cover-up that spiraled out of control. She said nothing then, lips sealed by the lie that silence could shield them all. Guilt coils in her gut like a living thing, tightening as Marcus turns to her. "It's over, Liz," he says, voice flat, eyes avoiding hers. The estrangement begins here, in this kitchen thick with unspoken blame. She wants to confess, tell him it was her fault, her neediness that pushed him to bend the rules. But the words choke. Instead, she nods, helps him pack his briefcase one last time, the click of the latch echoing like a door slamming shut. Elena watches from the hall, her face a mask of forced calm. But Alyssa feels the fracture widening. Brother to stranger, family to facade. Back in the present, Alyssa's fingers pause on a photo of them laughing at a picnic, pre-scandal innocence. The guilt surges, raw and unrelenting. No excuses, no softening the blade of her silence. It deepened the rift, turned proximity into distance. But in this acknowledgement, a flicker. Hiding it didn't protect anyone, it just buried them alive. The album snaps shut, the sound sharp in the quiet room. Will this buried truth finally unlock why they stopped talking altogether? The question hangs, unanswered, as the camera pulls back, leaving her staring at the closed cover. The narrative returns to the studio for a direct confrontation. The studio lights hummed like a distant storm, casting long shadows across the neutral gray walls. Alyssa stood rigid, her fingers twisting the hem of her blouse, heart pounding against her ribs. Across from her, Elena sat in the interview chair, posture impeccable, eyes fixed on a point just beyond Alyssa's shoulder. Dr. Naomi's camera crew lingered in the corners, mics poised like accusatory fingers, but this moment felt stripped bare, no buffers, no cuts. "Mom," Alyssa said, voice cracking on the word, anxiety coiling tight in her chest. "You chose it." The silence. After Marcus's dismissal, when everything shattered, you chose to bury it, saying it was to protect us kids. But look at us now. Fractured, distant, how was that protection? Elena's lips thinned, her hands folding in her lap like a shield. The air thickened, heavy with the unsaid. Outside the studio window, the Hart family home loomed in the dusk, its front door a dark rectangle against the fading light. Closed, unyielding, just as it had been for years. Alyssa glanced at it, the symbol of every locked conversation, every averted gaze. "I was trying to hold us together," Elena murmured, her voice a fragile thread. "The scandal, it would have torn you apart. I thought silence was the kindest path." "Kindest?" Alyssa's breath hitched, the word a spark to her fear. She stepped closer, the space between them shrinking. It undermined everything. We carried the weight alone. Marcus ran. I hid in guilt. You didn't protect us. You isolated us. What was the price, Mom? Say it. The real cost of your quiet. Elena's eyes met hers then, glistening, the matriarch's armor cracking. Tension pulled at both of them, a taut wire ready to snap. Alyssa's pulse raced, dread pooling in her gut. What if this broke them irreparably? But she pressed on, voice rising. Admit it. Silence wasn't saving the home. It was losing us all, piece by piece. A tremor ran through Elena's frame. She rose slowly, crossing to the window, her palm pressing against the glass as if reaching for the closed door beyond. I chose wrong, she whispered, the confession spilling out like blood from a fresh wound. I thought I was shielding you, but I was shielding myself from the mess I'd helped make. The price? Our family hollowed out. You were right to drag us here, Alyssa. I see it now, the silence devoured us. Relief washed over Alyssa, a sudden exhale, the anxiety uncoiling into something lighter, freer. Liberation flickered in her chest, tentative but real. Elena turned, tears tracing her cheeks, and for the first time, the barrier between them thinned. Yet the question hung unspoken in the dimming light. Could silence ever save a home without costing the souls within? The closed door outside stared back, indifferent. In the wake of this admission, Alyssa takes decisive action at home. Alyssa stared at the faded family album on the kitchen counter, its pages splayed like an accusation. The Hart home felt smaller tonight, walls closing in with the weight of unspoken years. Marcus's chair sat empty across from her, Elena's untouched plate a silent sentinel. She paced, phone in hand, thumb hovering over Dr. Naomi's contact. Doubt clawed at her gut. What if the cameras turned their pain into spectacle? What if inviting the crew shattered the fragile truce they'd all pretended to maintain? Her breath hitched. No more. The lie she'd clung to, that silence protected them, had only widened the chasm. Marcus's 2016 dismissal, the scandal she'd buried to shield him, echoed in her mind. His cold, "It's done, Liz, let it go," as he walked out, leaving her to swallow the guilt. Elena's enforced hush afterward, for the family's sake, had poisoned everything. Enough. Fingers trembling, Alyssa hit call. Naomi, it's me. Bring the team tomorrow. Family dinner. I want mics at the table. We're talking, really talking, or this ends in ruins anyway. The line crackled with Naomi's measured response, but Alyssa barely heard it. Doubt ebbed as resolve hardened her voice. She hung up, heart pounding, and texted Marcus and Elena, "Crew coming. No more games. Truth or nothing." The next evening, the dining room buzzed with intrusion. Lights hummed, cables snaked across the floor. Alyssa adjusted her seat at the head, the recording mic clipped to her collar like a badge of defiance. Cold metal against her skin, a conduit for words long damned. The studio lights hummed like a distant storm, casting stark shadows across Marcus's face. He slouched in the interview chair, arms crossed, the recording mic dangling from its boom like an accusatory finger hovering inches from his lips. Alyssa sat opposite, her eyes locked on him, the weight of years pressing down. Dr. Naomi's voice had just faded from the off-screen prompt. "Marcus, what did that dismissal really cost you?" He snorted, a bitter laugh escaping first, his old shield. "Cost me? Oh, sure, Alyssa. You waltz in here playing savior, dragging us all under these lights because your guilt's too heavy to carry alone. What, you think a camera's gonna fix the mess you left?" Anger flared in his voice, hot and jagged, slicing the air between them. The mic caught every syllable, amplifying the raw edge, turning his sarcasm into something almost visible. A barrier cracking under its own weight. Alyssa flinched, but held her ground, her fingers twisting in her lap. "I'm not blaming you, Marcus. I'm just tired of pretending it didn't happen." He leaned forward, eyes narrowing, the fury twisting his features. But then, something shifted. A flicker, like a dam giving way. The mic bobbed slightly as he exhaled, long and ragged, the anger bleeding into something quieter, more exposed. "Pretending? You think I haven't been? That day, after the scandal blew up, and Dad fired me like I was nothing. You just stood there, silent, like it was my fault for trusting the family business in the first place." His voice cracked, the sarcasm dissolving into gravel. He rubbed his jaw, avoiding her gaze. "I felt betrayed, Alyssa. By everyone. Mom with her peace-at-any-price bullshit. You with your wide-eyed loyalty that never spoke up. I didn't know who to turn to. Hell, I still don't." The words hung there, unfiltered. The mic capturing the vulnerability like a thief stealing secrets. Alyssa's breath caught. She saw it now, the mirror of her own wounds in his eyes, not just her pain, but his, festering in parallel. The distance between them felt smaller, the wall pierced by his honesty. No more hiding behind barbs. This was the hurt laid bare, demanding its due. Marcus glanced at the mic, as if realizing it had witnessed his surrender, then back at her. The question lingered unspoken in the heavy silence. After all this, who could he trust now? Who could they? The story advances to the public airing, drawing Elena into the fray. The screen flickered to life in the dim living room of the Hart home, the documentary montage unspooling like a noose tightening around Elena's throat. She sat rigid on the edge of the worn couch, remote clutched in white-knuckled fingers, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and unspoken years. Alyssa's voice pierced first, raw, trembling, from the broadcast. "I carried it alone because I thought silence would shield us, but it didn't. Mom, you chose peace over truth, and it broke us." Elena's breath hitched, tension coiling in her chest, like a spring wound too tight. The footage cut to Marcus, his face shadowed in the studio's harsh light, admitting the dismissal after the scandal. "You let me walk away, Elena. I thought it was protection, but it was abandonment. I stayed distant because facing you meant facing my own shame." The recording mic loomed large on screen, its unblinking eye capturing every flinch, every swallowed word. A relic from the interviews that now broadcast their fractures to the world. Elena's hand trembled. She could almost feel its cold metal against her lips, demanding she speak or shatter. Outside, the crew waited, cameras trained on the closed door, symbol of all they'd barricaded. Alyssa's final confession echoed. "I invited the world in because hiding wasn't kindness. It was cruelty." The public eye pressed in, accusations blooming into indictments, no escape in the glare. Elena's pulse thundered, shame warring with the weight of it all, the scales tipping, truth outweighing the fragile lie of harmony. She rose, legs unsteady, the tension fracturing into something sharper. Resolve. The door creaked open under her palm, spilling light onto the threshold where Alyssa stood, eyes wide, observing her mother's unraveling. I did choose silence," Elena said, voice cracking but steady, stepping into the frame. "To protect you both from the mess I made. But I see now. It cost us everything. No blame, only the raw edge of ownership, her words a bridge over the chasm." Alyssa watched, heart pounding, the risk crystallizing. Forgiveness wasn't given. It was claimed. But as Elena faced the mics, the crew, the unyielding lens, would she hold or retreat into the shadows once more? The broadcast hummed on, unanswered. Building on this momentum, the confessional deepens between Alyssa and Marcus. The studio lights hummed like a distant swarm, casting stark shadows across Alyssa and Marcus as they faced each other in the confessional chair. The recording mic dangled between them, a cold sentinel on its boom arm, capturing every hitch in their breaths. Alyssa's hands clenched the armrests, knuckles white, her voice slicing through the tension. Marcus, it's not just the old scandal. There's another layer you've buried, and I know it because I've felt it echoing in every silence between us. Admit it. You're scared I'll accuse you again, like that day you shut me out. Marcus shifted, his jaw tight, eyes flicking to the mic as if it might bite. The air thickened, heavy with the weight of years unspoken. Both of them coiled like wires about to snap. He leaned forward, sarcasm flickering in his gaze, but not quite igniting. Accuse me? Alyssa, you've carried this like a badge of your own guilt. What if I say it out loud and it all crumbles worse? Her chest ached, the pull of old shame warring with the raw urge to push. But she held his stare, voice steadying. I'm not accusing. I'm asking you to see it. My silence wasn't to hurt you. It was me trying to hold on to what little we had left, terrified of losing you completely. The words hung, vulnerable, stripping the armor she'd worn so long. She refused to let guilt shield her anymore. This was her stand, owning the initiative that had dragged them here. Marcus's shoulders sagged, the fight draining as the mic picked up the soft crack in his voice. For the first time, no deflection, no bitter edge, just the ache mirroring hers. I dismissed you back then because I was the one breaking, scared you'd see how weak I felt after it all. Hiding it didn't protect us. It just built this wall. He reached out, not touching, but close enough that the distance between them felt paper thin. They sat there, breaths sinking in the quiet, hearing the pain woven into each other's confessions, the shared destruction laid bare under the unblinking lens. The mic gleamed, a quiet witness to the shift, truth spilling not as weapon, but as bridge. Yet, in the pause that followed, the question lingered unspoken. Could he truly accept her silence for what it was? A desperate grasp at connection rather than betrayal? The studio held its breath, the drama teetering toward whatever fragile next step awaited. Finally, the family reconvenes in the studio for resolution. The studio lights hummed softly, casting long shadows across the circle of worn armchairs where the Hart family sat. Microphones poised like reluctant witnesses. Alyssa shifted in her seat, her fingers tracing the edge of the faded family album on the table between them. A relic they'd unearthed earlier, its pages whispering of better days. Dr. Naomi Ellis leaned forward, her voice steady. We've cracked the door open today. The question is, do we step through? Doubt hung thick in the air, a residue of the standoff outside their home. Marcus's jaw tightened, his eyes flicking to the closed door of the studio, mirroring the one they'd faced at the Hart house, that unyielding barrier symbolizing years of locked-away words. What's the point? He muttered, voice raw from the earlier confrontation. We spill it all on camera, and then what? More pain? I can still feel that dismissal you threw at me, Alyssa. Like I was the problem, not the mess we all made. His words stung, pulling at the fresh wounds from the flashback they'd relived. His scandal, her silence, Elena's enforced hush to protect them. Elena reached out, her hand hovering before touching Alyssa's knee, a tentative bridge. "I chose quiet to keep us whole," she confessed, eyes glistening. But it wasn't kindness. It was fear. And now, this exposure. It terrifies me. The room pulsed with tension, internal storms brewing behind every averted gaze, the external glare of the cameras amplifying their vulnerability. Alyssa felt the weight of it all, the guilt she'd carried like a second skin. Could they really choose this path, when every revelation risked shattering what little remained? Yet, as the silence stretched, Alyssa's resolve flickered. She met Marcus's eyes, then Elena's, her voice breaking the hush. "I've spent years thinking silence protected us, but it didn't. It built walls. If we stop now, we're right back there, behind that closed door, alone with our lies." She paused, heart pounding, choosing in that breath. Honesty is a lifeline, not a blade. "I accept it. The forgiveness you offered, Mom, and what I owe you, Marcus. But it's not done. We record this, we commit to the talks, the steps forward. No more hiding." Marcus exhaled, a crack in his armor. "Fine, but not for the show, for us." Elena nodded, tears tracing lines down her cheeks. "We'll work at it, openly, no distance." The emotion shifted then, doubt yielding to a fragile hope, like dawn seeping under a doorframe. Dr. Ellis smiled faintly. "That's the compromise. Dialogue is process, not event." They rose, the cameras capturing the tentative clasp of hands, the album closing softly. But as they lingered, the unspoken lingered too. How much more truth could their shared path withstand before it buckled or bloomed?